the MO podcast and the MO podcast. The MO.
You're here with me,
Consummation Sam,
and my lovely host.
Atreya.
And today we're going to be setting sail on a nautical voyage. We've got two cases to discuss. The Philedelphia Experiment and the fate of the Carroll A Deering. We'll find out what happened to both of these.
So we'll start with the Philadelphia Experiment. This is more or less an urban legend. There's really no proof that it ever happened, although it could be one of those deals where it's a government cover-up, then they're not going to admit it, you never know. Anyway, it's a World War II conspiracy theory. They were trying to make a ship that had kind of cloaking so that it would be invisible to enemy ships, enemy planes, subs. And what they were trying to do was they were trying to bend light to go around the ship, sort of kind of scientifically rendering it invisible. Albert Einstein was the brains behind the theory. He allegedly says he was never successful in making it come to pass. It was all about the unified field theory. So they had this ship called the USS Eldridge. It was a Cannon-class destroyer. And on October 28th, 1943, they decided they would conduct an experiment to try and see if this cloaking device worked. So, in essence, what happened was the ship disappeared, and they thought, great, it's worked. And then it reappeared 200 miles away, near Norfolk, Virginia, and then popped back up in Philadelphia. They were all kind of confused, even more so when allegedly the crew had horrible side effects, like they developed diseases. They were, mildly putting it, they were nauseous, but other crew members had actually fused with the ship, like it had scrambled their molecules, and there was like half bodies coming out of the masts, and it was just grotesque. It's just a conspiracy theory. Allegedly the USS Eldridge was never there. There's no record of any of these experiments taking place, so there's no really concrete evidence. But I mean, being fused with a ship while you're still alive, oof.
I know, yeah. I like this story because it's one of them, if you just read it on the surface, you just go, no, that it's completely fabricated. But then if you dig a little bit deeper, if you were so inclined to be one of them tinfoil hat people, you could actually look into this and go, maybe there's something there. Einstein, in May of 1943, actually was a consultant for the R&D department of the US Navy. So he was actually working for the Navy at this point in time. Also, Tesla died in January 1943, Nikola Tesla, and all these papers, all these properties, intellectual stuff, that was impounded by the US government and was looked over by a guy called Dr. Donald G. Trump. I hope he's no relation, I really do, or else we're all...
That explains so much now.
Yeah. But the interesting thing was he worked for the National Defense Research Committee as well. You've got these two kind of factors that are like, oh, okay, well, there were scientists working on it, and they were the lead scientists of their time. They had all the papers that they ever could have and all the knowledge. But obviously timelines and other stuff don't actually match up.
There was apparently hundreds of people saw this ship when it was in Norfolk, but apparently there was a passage where only the government ships could travel and they could get to Philadelphia and Virginia within 2 hours. So it's highly likely that people were seeing the ship on the same day in two different locations because, it managed to get there within 2 hours and then go back within 2 hours. It's not weeks and weeks. And they were saying that they saw this green glow, which could have been an electrical storm. That's fairly normal.
Definitely. And as well, there was the USS Ingstrom was docked alongside the Eldridge in 1943, and they were actually running experiments on them. On that ship, they were using a technique called degaussing technique, which is to run an electromagnetic pulse through the ship to make it invisible to magnetic bombs and mines and torpedoes, which is what the Nazis were using at the time. So it didn't work on radar because it was just around the actual ship. and in that kind of presence. That may be kind of where the story gets a bit. There was an experiment going on in that shipyard, but it wasn't this one. And as well, apparently, when this took place, it was in October, and the Eldridge was stationed in Brooklyn at that particular time. They also, apparently I read that in July of 1943 they did the first experiment on it, which is where they were just trying to make it invisible. Unfortunately, it wasn't commissioned until 2 days after the dates that they claimed that this experiment took place. But what's interesting about that is that's from the US records. After the war, it was actually given to the Greek naval people, and they took ownership of it, and it actually was in service until 1991, I believe. But with their records, it was commissioned on the 24th of June, I think, 30 days before the Americans' paperwork said it was actually commissioned. So there's inconsistencies with it all over the place. The thing is with this, we only have this information from one person, Carl Allen.
Yeah, Carl M. Allen. That was his real name, wasn't it? He went under an alias.
Yeah, Alandre.
Lead them all on a goose chase.
Yeah. So he was basically the guy who got in touch with Morris K. Jessup, who was a ufologist at the time. He was actually a used automobile parts salesman. But in fairness to him, that was only part of what he did, because he did have a degree in astronomy, and he taught astronomy and mathematics at Duke and Michigan University. He was more than just that, and a lot of the researchers have described him as like a used car salesman kind of thing, just to try and downplay how good he was at what he was doing. He wrote 4 books during the 50s, and he was doing lecture tours, and it was on one of these tours that Alendre came across him and started writing to him, because Jessup said, we need to start looking into this unified theory, and this could be something that we could work with, especially in the range of discovering unidentified flying objects. And Alendre wrote to him and said, it's already happened, and he explained all of this, the experiment that happened. And he really took it, and he ran with it. He made it one of his causes. And what's interesting about him is he committed suicide in April of 1959. A day before he committed suicide, he spoke to one of his best friends, Dr. J. Manson Valentine, and said, we need to meet for dinner because I've made a breakthrough on the Philadelphia Experiment, on this, what I'm working on. He committed suicide by carbon monoxide poisoning, so he would basically put a tube up to the exhaust of his car through the window. But what's quite interesting is he was never given an autopsy. A coroner didn't come up with the cause of death. It was the lead detective who actually came up with it, because he just looked at it and went, well, that's a suicide, isn't it? Yeah, it wasn't really investigated, his death. Which again, it throws stuff out there, and you go, oh, okay.
It certainly sounds like he was onto something that the big men weren't having. Didn't want that out there.
And as well, for Allen, Alendre, Carl M. Allen, to his benefit, he did write a lot of detail in his letters. I think it was 3 or 4 letters he wrote to Jessup about the intricate goings on. So basically, he gave his sailor ID number on his first letter so he could be tracked, and he was actually on board the SS Andrew Forsyth, which was the ship that witnessed this the Eldridge just appearing in Norfolk. He was on board that, and this is what he witnessed. And in one of his letters, he describes taking a lie detector test and using sodium pentothal. Now, what's interesting with this is it was only discovered in 1922, sodium pentothal, and the Navy had only started using it as a truth serum in 1947. Yeah, so they didn't. There was a branch of the Navy that was looking into truth serums. They kind of used peyote as a truth serum. Obviously, it was just drugging up people just to see what they talk about. And sodium pentothal, exactly, just getting people high and then going, yeah, let's have a chat, you know.
There's one way of looking at it.
The Navy had this whole department looking at these kind of truth serums and how to go about it, how to get people to talk. And it's interesting that he kind of says sodium pentothal, the actual name of it, rather than maybe if they gave me a truth serum. This was the early 50s that he was writing to him, so it had only been discovered for 20 odd years. So I don't think there was a lot in the main press about it. If Alan didn't seem like he was very... he was a sailor. That was what he did. Do you know what I mean? He wasn't like a medic. He wasn't...
It's not the kind of thing he would know about, yeah.
Exactly, a physician. It just seemed really strange that he'd actually mentioned that. So maybe he's had brushes with it in his naval career. But yeah, it's one of them when you scratch the surface of it and you go, oh no. But then you look at a little bit deeper into it. I think. I mean, I don't personally with the sailors fused to the bulkheads and such. I'm not 100% sure about that.
Yeah, it seems a bit fantastical. It seems a bit like an embellishment, doesn't it?
Yeah, they had an inkling of a story.
Yeah.
And maybe, I mean, like you say, they travelled down these canals. The Navy had exclusive use of these inland canals, and they could make that trip in 2 hours down to Norfolk.
The thing is, though, right, so if Alan was on the ship that saw the Eldritch appear... I mean, presumably, I'm not a sailor, but I've seen ships coming and going, and I mean, I can spot when it's kind of drifting into a dock and drifting out again. I think I'd know the difference between a ship just pinging into existence and, coming into dock. You would presume that being a sailor, Alan would be able to tell the difference. So if he's saying it just appeared, are we to take that at face value, that he legit thinks it just pinged into existence? Because you got to disregard like the other witnesses, kind of, because they might have just happened to be passing and the ship was already there, and they're like, oh look, this ship's here today, and then they've heard this story and they've gone, oh yeah, I saw it here today as well, it must have teleported, as opposed to they just happened to be passing and it was already stationed there after pulling in. There's a difference between it drifting in and pinging into existence.
Yeah. You would notice a difference, and as well, what was the point of going down the inland canal route to get back? Because it'd be, say it takes 2 hours to get there, so it'd be a 4-hour round trip. What are you doing?
Yeah, are you dropping anything off or making a delivery or just for the crack?
That's it. There's no records of anyone disembarking or that it actually even being there, to be honest. But according to Alan, it was there, and then all of a sudden it was gone, and there was this green fog that was left there.
I don't know what to make out of Carl Allen, though, to be honest. I figure him as a little bit of a Billy Bullshitter, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think he died in 91. He he didn't really speak about it after it all kind of broke in 57, because everyone was laughing at him. He was a bit reticent to go out into the public and start talking about it. And apparently, he was very difficult to get hold of. He once this all broke, he went underground and disappeared for a while. He has done interviews about it, but he's not really. He's kept to the story that he had. Mm-hmm. But again, I mean, what would be the point for him to come out with this? And he has actually said that the brainwashing was used so people didn't recall this. But then why wasn't he brainwashed? What happened?
He just happened to be off sick that day.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of inconsistencies with it, and if you really wanted, you could clutch at straws and go, no, that happened just because of this, this, and this. But then it's, again, there's some things that I've read that have been inconsistent with other things, so it's kind of like as time passes, it gets more inconsistent.
Yeah.
Is that the case with this, or? I mean, to be honest with you, if they actually did this, okay, they were fused into bulkheads, so maybe they were a bit hesitant in trying it again. But why has no other ship done this? Why is this not the mode of travel we're using today?
Yeah. Why has it never been done since? Yeah. Or maybe it has. Maybe it's just a secret because, the government wants to make sure we've got one over on whoever next tries to, nuke the country.
Yeah, indeed. It's keeping it in secret, isn't it, and having it. And then if that happens, if the worst case scenario comes up, they can pull this out and go, ah ha ha! I was over there, now I'm here. Didn't see that coming.
I mean, people who know things do tend to wind up dead, don't they? If a little knowledge is a lot of power. So I feel like Jessup, maybe that is very suspicious. How he was gonna have it, like, if you were gonna commit suicide, you probably wouldn't arrange dinner plans.
That's the thing as well. He did write earlier in the year. He did write to a friend who's in New York, and he was very depressed. He had suicidal thoughts, but it's an actual quote that he had a breakthrough in the Philedelphia Experiment. So this is why he was going to meet his friend, who was his publisher as well. Mm-hmm. So why would you say that if this has been your, alright, maybe not his life's work, but this has been something you've been working on for months and months and months, years and years, and then you've got this final breakthrough? Even if you were feeling a bit down in the dumps, this would pick you up, surely.
You would think so, yeah. It's very suspicious.
There's so many ups and downs with this one. I don't know where to stand on it.
I know, I'm on the fence as well. I get the theory behind it, and I definitely get the degaussing side of things, totally plausible, but I don't know if I'm on board, no pun intended, with the with the teleportation. I just don't.
It's just too far-fetched. I mean, even if we heard about it today, I think we'd still be going, no, I need to see it to believe it kind of thing. This was 1943, 80-odd years ago. Come on, it's like, really? But then, do we know everything that Einstein's done, everything that Tesla's done? A government going to release it?
Yeah, what were they working on that was, too big a secret to let Joe Public know about?
They still not come clean about Bigfoot.
I'm taking my tinfoil hat off now. I don't need it anymore.
With teleportation and bending the rules of physics, I mean, to be honest with you, I think even Einstein said that it couldn't be done. It'd have to be outside of physical law if it was done. But the US Navy in the 40s was working on anti-gravity stuff. There was a Nazi who was head of the V2 program during the war. He had some thoughts on anti-gravity and how to use that. I mean, I'm not saying it's the same kind of thing, but it's stuff that even today we haven't mastered yet.
Yeah.
So maybe there was something. I mean, to me, it's really suspicious that Einstein was the consultant for the US Navy. They took all Tesla's research, and then as soon as Jessup gets a breakthrough in his case, he's found suicided.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Carroll A Deering. You want to kick us off?
Yeah. So, the Carroll A Deering was a 5-masted schooner. One of the last commercial ships built like of the time. Basically, it was a big wooden, proper Sea of Thieves ship.
Woo.
This one. It's a lovely boat to look at, if you've seen the pictures.
I have.
She was built in Bath in Maine in 1919 and had Captain William H. Merritt and their son Sewell. Sewell Merritt. They were the captain of it for a good year, I think, maybe even since its inception, and did loads of stuff. Took commercial stuff all around the world and came back, was very successful. Then, in August 1920, they set sail for Rio from Norfolk again.
It's just a place of conspiracies, isn't it? Or it's just a bad place to go if you're a sailor. Just stay away from Norfolk, Virginia. Your ship will go missing.
As they're sailing out, they've not even left the Straits of America yet, and the captain falls ill. So they've got to drop him off back on land. His first mate goes with him, and they hastily get a new captain, Willis Wormel, and first mate Charles B. McClellan. Now, I've seen pictures of Willis, and he's not that spry, I'll put it that way.
Oh, he was 66, wasn't he? Back in those days, that was like 150.
Yeah, hard living, must be, sailor. So they carried on. The crew stayed the same, and it was an entirely Scandinavian crew. Mostly Danish. I think it was 8-man crew. It was mostly Danish, but there was a Swede and certainly a Finn on board as well. So they get down to Rio, drop off their shipment of coal, everything's fine. While they're there, the captain goes and has a word with one of his friends who's in the dock there, who's docked up, Captain Goodwin. And he starts moaning about the crew, saying, they're a bit lazy, he can't get them to do anything, etc., etc., which is really weird because Scandinavians, they're Vikings, they're sailors to the bone. So...
And he did more or less say that McClellan, the first mate, was a bit of a...
Yeah. He only liked one person, which was the engineer, I think.
Yes.
But, as well, the engineer had worked with Captain Goodwin as well. So whether he was just saying that because it was an acquaintance they had in common, or he didn't want to come off as a little bit of a, they're all rubbish kind of thing, I don't know. But... the way he looks a bit crotchety, he looks a bit, curmudgeon kind of thing, so, yeah. So anyway, so he's giving out about him, but nothing happened. They left Rio on the 2nd of December. Mm-hmm. So, as they're sailing up, they stopped in Barbados for supplies, and this is where it gets a little bit, who did, like, Colonel Mustard with the candlestick in the library this now? Because McClellan got drunk and he was complaining all over, apparently. He said multiple things about the captain. He was saying, I have to do all the work. He can't even see. I've got to do the charts. I've got to do all the steering. He's useless. I can't discipline the crew without him having a putting his 2p in kind of thing. And he was quoted as saying... I'll get the captain before we get to Norfolk, I will. So, I mean, we've all been drunk and, moaned about our bosses, pretty sure.
For real, definitely. Can confirm.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever claimed I was going to get one of them. But, I think it was more said in drunkenness bravado rather than anything too bad because... the captain, Wormel, he bailed him out of prison when he got arrested for being drunk and disorderly. So on the 9th of January, they left Barbados and they were going back to Virginia to dock and get more stuff and carry on. So what happens now is between the 9th of January and the 28th of January, something happens because... the 28th of January, they were spotted by the Cape Lookout Lightship in North Carolina. And the person that was stationed there, his radio didn't work, coincidence.
What good is he then?
I know. It's like, and he couldn't hail another ship.
What?
Like, hang on a minute. This is one of the busiest throughways in the sea. How bad are you at your job?
Extremely.
Yeah. So basically, he was hailed by a tall, thin man with reddish hair who had an accent, and he claimed to have lost their anchor in a storm off Cape Fear. Seriously, right? Cape Fear. Why are you going there? The name. We've all seen the film. Come on. Robert
Let's
De Niro.
just sail right into the Bermuda Triangle, why don't we?
Yeah. So pretty much, this guy, he wasn't officer material. He was just someone who was shouting, and the crew apparently they were all milling about on a place called quarterdeck, which is the crew aren't usually allowed on the quarterdeck. Because it's for ceremonial. Well, later on it became for ceremonial purposes, but it's like the officers' place, and it's where they have guests on the ship. So it's one of them fancy little places that's just the captains and no one else is allowed. But apparently they were all milling about there.
I can't see how it's only the captains allowed. I mean, there was only 10 of them on the ship. Do you know how lonely is it going to be?
But I mean, that's the thing. They put a lot of stock in back in them days that the captain was above everyone. Do you know?
Party for one on the quarterdeck.
Well, yeah, that's it. But it's different time, weren't it? I mean, to be honest with you, if I was a captain, I'd be like, you stay down there, you plebs. It's me up here.
Pity party for one.
Yeah. I'd love it. Be on my own. So, yeah, then they were later spotted sailing towards the Diamond Shoals, which was known as the graveyard of the Atlantic at that time. It was responsible for nearly 600 wrecks off the coast of North Carolina. And the people that spotted them couldn't see any crew on deck at this time, so they just didn't bother hailing them. Because they assumed they would see the Cape Hatteras lighthouse, which is on this, which is it's a lighthouse that points out that if you go in this way, you need to turn back, kind of thing. I don't know why they didn't see that lighthouse, but there's no reports from the lighthouse of them seeing it. So I don't know what happened, but they didn't see the lighthouse didn't see them, and they ended up being shipwrecked on the Diamond Shoals, which is a very, with the tide that's there and the shallow bays, it'll get you basically if you go anywhere near it.
Yeah.
So it was spotted on the 31st of January. The lighthouse keeper just got up. He was put his coffee on, and he looked out the window and he seen it there, and he went, "Oh bugger!"
Another one.
Last night, yeah. But unfortunately, they were unable to reach it until the 4th of February due to the bad weather and the bad tides. So when they actually did discover when they actually got on board the ship, they seen the steering was damaged, the steering wheel was actually destroyed, the navigation and the ship's logs were gone, along with 2 rowboats and all the crew's personal effects. But the weird bit is as well, there was food still being prepared, and they were literally in the midst of just serving a meal.
Yeah.
So it was unsalvageable. So basically, they just blew it up, and yeah, local residents used the wood that washed up onshore to build some houses. Actually,
not a complete waste.
A little bit of history there, but in between the 9th of January and the 28th of January, it's all a mystery. We actually don't know what happened. So, you know?
Well, it seems a bit like that when it got beached, there was no crew on there. You would assume they would have seen somebody on deck as it was passing or coming up to the lighthouse. Somebody would have been seen on deck. Nobody was. And then even for the lighthouse keeper by himself to kind of go, oh, look, there's a ship that's just beached and now it's wrecked. I can't reach it for another however many days. And then he still doesn't see anybody on deck. For the entire period between then and when it was blown up with dynamite, that's a bit... my first thought would be, oh, that's weird, there's no crew. I wouldn't be thinking, well, they obviously just got off with all their stuff on land and then they've just gone home. They've took all their seafaring navigational equipment that proves incredibly useful on land. Left all the food and their cat. Apparently the cat was on there.
No.
Yeah. Apparently they only found a cat. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe the cat just went rogue and everybody threw themselves overboard because, some people are very terrified of cats.
Yeah.
They can be a bit raggy.
If it was a lion, maybe I'd believe that story, but if it's just a cat, put it in a cannon and fire it.
Wow. Okay, so this guy who they spotted on deck that they said was the guy with reddish brown hair and an accent.
Yeah.
When they say foreign accent, they need to be a bit more... what kind of... Because, this was America. I guess our accent's classed as foreign to an American.
Yeah.
He might have been waving his hanky and going, what ho, fellas? We appear to be in a bit of a problem. Somebody give me a hand, old chum. And they might have thought that's a foreign accent, or maybe that's why see that British dick over there. Remember what they did to us? Let's fucking leave him sinking. But
Indeed.
It sounds like it sailed for a long time without a crew, or the steering wouldn't have been knackered.
Yeah. So basically, with the description of the guy, it was apparently the same description of a Johan Fredriksson, who was the Finnish guy, and he was the bosun at the time they were sailing. Now, the bosun is pretty much, from what I believe, the bosun is like the leader of the crew, if you know what I mean. Like he's the one that
it's like the foreman,
is the go-between. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. I was going to say a trade union, but yeah,
he's the foreman, but he's the Raji Gadji in Pirates of the Caribbean, isn't he? On the Flying Dutchman, that's just horrible.
Yes.
Keeps hitting people with a cat o' nine tails, dick.
Keeps whipping people.
Yeah.
So apparently that was him, and if he was Finnish, then obviously I can see how he had a foreign accent.
Yeah.
But surely you see people from all around the world when you live in the sailor's life. Surely you should have a little bit of nous of where they're coming from and what accents from where.
You would think.
As well, there's a few things here that are a little bit interesting. So the 23rd of January was the last marking of the captain on the map. Every marking after that was made in a different hand, so that kind of threw alarm bells out to the investigating team. But there was actually evidence of multiple people sleeping in the captain's chambers as well, but
because of all the boots. There was loads of boots. Yeah, it could have been a orgy. They've been out to sea for a while.
They guess lonely. Maybe it was someone's turn in the barrel.
If you were going to kill the captain, though, presumably the worst thing you could do afterwards is continue to fill in the captain's log, the navigation log, in your handwriting. That just looks really suspicious. Or why did the captain not fill this in? Or because he was dead because we killed him?
That's it. And if he would have died of natural causes, surely when you see the light ship there, you go, oh, well, we ain't got an anchor. By the way, our captain's, he's kicked the bucket.
Yeah.
Surely that's kind of when you can report it. So,
or it would have been in the log at least. You would have written it in the log. This is in my handwriting because the captain is dead. Natural causes, defo not us.
Yeah, not us. Promise. Super promise. Cross my heart and hope to die. Yeah, so there was a big investigation into this because around about this time, 10 ships went missing as well. So, including the Deering, there was 10 ships that went missing. 8 were sailing via the Atlantic and were kind of disregarded because there was a massive hurricane, the worst one for 20 years, I believe, and it was all kind of okay. They've gone into the hurricane and they've disappeared, kind of thing. But there was two ships, which was the Deering, and it was an English steamship as well that went missing at the time, and they were doing coastal routes, so they wouldn't have anything to do because it never landed, the hurricane, on coast, so it wasn't anything to do with them. But what happened is they put out, I'll say an APB, but of an all points bulletin of anyone with the description of people looking like the crew of either the Deering or the other ship. They wanted to interview them, and if anyone came across them, they needed to report them. And there were several reports that actually came in all around the United States of these people. So 2 were Danish. They were 2 Danish sailors. They had the same description and the same names as 2 sailors that were on the Deering. But it got miscommunicated that they'd landed in the United States in Virginia again. And when the FBI went to have a word with them, they weren't there. They'd actually left Rotterdam. And because it was out of their jurisdiction, they went, yeah, leave it. And there was a story of another gentleman who was on the other ship. I can't for the life of me bloody remember the name of the ship, and I didn't bloody write it down, so apologies on that one. But he was on the other ship, and he turned up in I think it was in Boston, maybe. But he turned up, and it was him. It was definitely him. He had his sailor's number on him and everything. And they were like, oh, right, okay, so your ship's been sank, but you're okay. How's this happened? And he said, oh, well, I got off 20 minutes before it left port. And they went, yeah, pull the other one. It's got bells on. But it actually turned out that he did actually walk off the ship 20 minutes before it actually left port. Because I don't know what his reasons were, and I don't think they were ever discussed, but literally everyone was like, wow, you actually did. I don't know how the 20 minutes came, but he was seen literally in a pub as it was pulling out of harbour. yeah, so yeah, exactly. So with the other 2, it was they never got a chance to ascertain whether it was them, but with this one they did, and he was just like, oh, I just want a drink. Yeah. So there's a couple of theories. Like, did you read the theory about the Russians? Did it? I know. I'm a massive fan of the Russians doing everything. To be honest, but with it, I think it's a bit. This is far-fetched. Although a lot of the cargo on all these 10 ships, not just the Deering and the other one that were lost in coastal waters, a lot of the cargo that was on them were actually prohibited in Russia under they couldn't actually get them in Russia because they were under sanctions. So it kind of, if you think about it that way, you go, maybe, but a load of communists, American communists, or Russian communists that come over to America are hijacking these ships and taking them to Russia for what is basically a pittance when you think of the size of Russia.
I mean, there was no, unless it was staged to make it look like the crew just took all their stuff and buggered off on lifeboats. There was no evidence of murder. There was no evidence of a struggle. And it's not like the crew would just voluntarily leave a ship that, I mean, it was decked out. It had electricity, proper plumbing. It had its own heating system. It was like, state of the art for the time. You wouldn't just... Yeah, you wouldn't voluntarily, and take all your possessions as well. If you were leaving in a hurry, the last thing I'm thinking about, if my house is burning down, is, oh shit, I've got to get my PC, I've got to get my PlayStation, my Switch. Oh, I love them coffee cups with the cats on as well. I need to remember to bring those. Oh, all those cat t-shirts, I need to get those. You just don't. You just run.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. When there's danger, and they were all experienced sailors on this ship. So even if the anchor was damaged and that was a factor that they couldn't stop, there's ways and means for them to stop. They could have just pulled up the sails, and as soon as they got into a harbour or near another ship, they could have explained the situation, tied up with another ship, and then that would have eventually slowed it. They were too experienced for a simple nautical emergency to happen, do you know? But then there's nothing that it was. There was no struggles. There was no blood. There was nothing. I mean, I don't know that the mutiny. See, there's like illegal rum runners were operating in the area, obviously from Barbados to the USA, and I don't. Was it Prohibition? 1920, yeah, it would have been Prohibition,
mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it? Yeah. So they had Prohibition. So okay, but then I think it would have. Why? What would the rum runners get out of it? They didn't have a cargo. They were going back home.
And they didn't take the ship, so...
Yeah. As pirates, the same kind of reason as well. That if they wanted the ship, they would have took it.
Yeah.
If there was no cargo on board.
I mean, you would think pirates would be proper wanting to take that ship. That ship was gold for a pirate.
Of course. Yeah,
but
definitely. There was nothing there. I mean, the only thing with this that seems plausible is mutiny. Maybe McClellan filled in on his promise to get the captain. He got him, and then rather than face the law, they all decided to jump ship. But I don't understand what...
Just jumping ship in the middle of the ocean, though, is a bit of a death wish, isn't it? Like,
yeah. Well, I don't understand what the crew would get out of that.
Absolutely
as well.
Nothing.
It's... Even if he wanted to get him, there's ways and means you could kind of explain it and just say, oh, he got drunk and fell overboard. Do you know what?
Exactly. There's no incentive for anybody in this entire story.
No, it's one of the more bizarre things.
Not as bizarre as people that say the Kraken killed all the crew.
I never read that.
Yeah, I read it. Apparently the Kraken must have had a bit of a penchant for navigational tools as well. He thought, I'll have those. They'll look nice in my little Kraken cave.
Yeah, does he not like cats or something, this Kraken?
Ooh, I'm not touching that. Ooh, no, you stay on board, you.
Yeah, scared me.
And he doesn't like sandwiches either. He left all the sandwiches, but he thought a life jacket, that might come in handy. All these people, nom nom nom, and a lifeboat. Oh, I could use that as some sort of, I don't know, canoe for when my tentacles get tired of swimming. And I just don't know. And then there's the Bermuda Triangle thing where they were like,
there is, yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, with that. They're too far away from it, and for that to happen, and plus the fact, don't things disappear within the Bermuda Triangle? Like, surely there'd be no evidence if it just disappeared.
Yeah, there'd be no ship.
Then, yeah, exactly. It's more believable. I mean, maybe it was aliens. Gang probed them. I don't know.
It is a really bizarre one, especially if you're saying that they did actually find members of the crew afterwards and just never interviewed them. Like, that would absolutely, even if it was out of my jurisdiction, the curiosity would kill me. I'd be like, tell me what happened.
It'd itch your brain, wouldn't it? You'd be like, no, I need to know. I need closure. I'm having a week off. I'm going to Rotterdam.
This is going to be a complete unsolved mystery for hundreds of years to come. I need to know the answer. Yeah, I couldn't have let them go. I'd be like, I won't even go on record. Just tell me what happened.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Nothing will happen to you. I just need to know.
Just satisfy my curiosity, please. I'm a sucker for unsolved mysteries.
Yeah, it's just there's nothing. It's if the ship was gone, you'd be like, right, fair enough. Yeah, it was the Kraken.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just with the ship being there and everything being left as it is, like a modern day Mary Celeste.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just I don't. Where would they have gone? What would they have done?
Maybe they found a better boat. Maybe they came across the Titanic.
Maybe they did bump into the Mary Celeste and join it.
It's a bizarre one. I can't wrap my head around what anybody got out of mutiny or piracy or anything. Even the Kraken, I can't figure out what he would have got out of this either. So it's a mystery to me that I just can't fathom out.
If, let's say, one of them went mad and then he could probably throw them all overboard, but I'm going to say Scandinavians aren't small people, so if you see someone getting thrown overboard, you're not going to wait till your turn. You're going to kind of like go, no, that's wrong, we'll stop you right now and then we can talk about it.
Yeah, definitely.
And you just wouldn't... There'd always be someone on watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just because of the nature of ships and what you're doing. So I don't think it's not murder. It's got to be mutiny. But then what are they getting?
Exactly.
Where are they going?
Exactly. They've run the risk of escaping on a lifeboat in the middle of the goddamn ocean and just hoping on a wing and a prayer that they make it to land.
If you're going to do that, right, why wouldn't you just take the ship and become a pirate?
Yeah.
There was still like no-go areas in the Caribbean at this point in time. You could have just kind of turned it round and gone, right, okay, we've broke that cardinal sin. Why don't we just go the whole hog and find some pieces of eight and stuff?
We'll never know.
So, that is the story of the Philedelphia Experiment and the Carroll A Deering. For now, that is the Mo Podcast with me, Consummation Sam.
And me, Atreya. Bye.
Take care, bye.